And welcome back. This is your man Warrior. This is another patron roster review, and this is Darth Rayden out of FTB, specifically the Shaved Tebow guild. FTB Shaved Tebow, what's happening to you guys? So Darth Rayden actually is a shard mate of mine. He's on my leaderboard, so him and I have to fight every day. It's pretty good, but he really chewed his way up to the top with this meta, the Emperor Palpatine meta. He proved himself that he's going to stay in the top, got into our our chat, and has really made himself a presence in both ours and the ships. And he really just kind of wants to know what ships should he continue to focus on. He knows ships are changing, so what are the ships that kind of should be the ships to focus on? Obviously the Sith raid, all the phases of Sith raid, that's kind of what everybody wants now. And then obviously kind of generalized priorities, like, you know, how should I focus on zetas? Like, who should I do zetas generally speaking? You know, generally speaking, how should I be spending my crystals, things like that. Now, he's been playing for 2 years, basically the same as me, 2 years. He's on the same, like I said, leaderboards. We started approximately within the first few weeks of each other, and he's a dolphin, so he spends some money, but not a ton. So this goes to show you don't have to spend, you know, a whale or cracking amount of money to get into the #1 slot every day, for sure. And right now you're sitting in 3 and 11, and I know you take first every day in both arenas. So let's go ahead and go right into it. So for ships, that's the first thing we're going to do. So the ships in here that I would recommend, and this is my thought process. First, I know what is meta today. I also know what is durable and overpowered and the best ships in the game now, and what you know to be good now. I've already played beta in ships, and I know that everything that's phenomenal now is phenomenal in the new beta. And so what the new beta did was make some of the other less relevant ships more relevant, and the ability to have more team compositions. So if somebody happened to have a bunch of rebel ships that they couldn't use, they now can. That doesn't make all the existing ships less effective. In fact, it makes them more effective because now you've got a really good start to an arena team. But there are some ships that I know of now that now and in the future are going to be great. And the current meta ships that you really should be focused on, we're going to go through them, is the Scimitar. You have it 6 stars. I would get him to 7 stars, gear 12 for the character. TIE Reaper, 7 stars, gear 12 for the characters. And if you're able to throw a Zeta on Death Trooper down the road at some point, that would be a Zeta worthy of having, because it does add some additional speed and health to this ship, making it more durable. But of course, your TIE Fighters, Biggs, you want to get to gear 12. Your First Order TIE Fighter, getting him up and finishing him off. The Imperial TIE Fighter, getting him to gear 12. He's at gear 10 right now. The First Order TIE Fighter, you could Zeta as well. He gives more health and speed to the ship. That's a really good ship to kind of focus on. And then as we kind of come down here, we notice a couple of ships that you're less focused on, and that's Poe Dameron's X-Wing, the TIE Silencer, and Biston's U-Wing. These 3 ships right now today are phenomenal. In fact, all 3 of those ships are in my ships, like my lineup. I have TIE Silencer, Biston's U-Wing. Biston is in, I have him in replacing Darth Vader's ship. I have Poe's X-Wing in the background, or in my back lineup, and I have TIE Silencer as my second in the back lineup as well. So I've got all 3 of these ships. These are phenomenal ships. I tested them on the new beta, and they're phenomenal. At least how they were in beta, they were phenomenal. So these are definitely ships you want to continue to develop the crew members and continue to develop the ships. So keep going on these ships. Now, if you want to know about ships that might become future meta, is Geonosians. Now, if you don't have them, don't work on them. Don't get their ships, whatever. It's not a big deal. Again, all the ships you have will continue to hold you through and help keep you be able to climb to the #1 slot in ships. But I tested all sorts of factions. I did over 100 battles with all the different factions versus factions, and the one faction that kept coming up to the top as the fastest kill faction was Geonosian. They actually chewed through every other team extremely fast. It had, of course, with RNG, a couple of times where it wasn't as fast as normal, but for the most part, the Geonosians had 0 problem getting through other ships. So if you were wanting to think, oh, who should I be farming for the future? This I think is part of the future. I think the First Order have a spot in the future. I think the Rebel ships have a spot in the future, and I think the Geonosians have a spot in the future. But those ships I suggested are the ones I would recommend. Now let's move into the Sith raid. All right, now I know I'm a broken record. Everybody hears me say JTR, 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 but why would I not suggest in Phase 1 the best team in Phase 1 when you have Phase 1 team ready and available? I know what you're using right now: Jedi Training Rey, R2, BB-8, Rey Scavenger, and Resistance Trooper. That's my guess, and I'm probably right. That team's phenomenal, but I probably would pull either Resistance Trooper or Rey Scavenger, probably Rey Scavenger out for Holdo, or you could pull Trooper out for Holdo, but I recommend Holdo. Now, I know you're saying, I've got to have him 7 stars or I can't go Sith Raid Heroic, and I get that, but Amilyn Holdo is going to be farmable in the next 4 to 6 weeks, and as soon as she becomes farmable, you're probably going to dolphin out a little bit on her and try and get her up. You're going to farm her traditionally as well, and within a few weeks, you're going to have her 7 stars. And then you're going to be looking at a Gear 3, or Gear 4 Holdo at 7 stars, and you can't even use her. So my suggestion is use the next 4 to 6 months, 4 to 6 months, use the next 4 to 6 weeks to go ahead and get Holdo up to Gear 11. And then when she is available to farm, you can start to farm her, get her to Gear 12 as soon as she hits 7 stars, and then you can immediately plug her into your team, and she is going to be amazing. A lot of people are saying, why Holdo? I thought she was a crappy character. Not at all. In fact, she was built specifically with the Sith raid in mind. She helps with health recovery. She helps with providing additional foresight for the whole team. She dazes the opponents, which can really help. She can put defense down on the primary target. That's huge for damage numbers in the raid. She's a dispeller, a cleanser. She can clean the team off and make sure they don't have debuffs on them, which will help you figure out the opponent's Darth Nihilus, the boss Darth Nihilus, and his Annihilate, how many debuffs he's going to actually have. Well, it's going to slow that down because she helps cleanse. And when she cleanses, she's going to give health and protection recovery, which is huge. That's the second health recovery she provides. And if she's not taunting, she gets plus 50 speed, so she's naturally fast anyway, unless she's taunting. And when she's taunting, she's probably going to have foresight on her between Rey, BB-8, and her. She's just constantly going to be bathed in foresight, which for a tank is amazing because they're going to try to hit her and miss. So she's really the missing link. Again, I'm just trying to get everyone to prepare that Holdo is really the character everyone's looking for to make this team click, last a whole lot longer, and get a bunch more damage in Phase 1. In Phase 2, I am suggesting the team that you use in your arena. The arena team you have right here is phenomenal. It's going to do no problems in Phase 2. It's going to get you a ton of damage. So Phase 2 team, really just path of least resistance. Use your arena squad. This squad is absolutely awesome. You should be able to post decent numbers with this team in Phase 2. Again, broken record, but currently the largest numbers we're seeing coming out of Phase 3 is a Chex Mix team composition. With that, you're going to use your CLS, Commander Luke Skywalker, your Han Solo. You've got both of those guys in the top row, so that's good. But you're also going to want your Death Trooper to come over from your Imperial Troopers, and right now, until this Chex team is ready to go, you could use your Imperial Troopers. Again, I am going to suggest if you do use your Imperial Troopers that you Zeta Aggressive Tactician. This is one of the top 10 Zetas in the game, in my opinion. Really a phenomenal team for territory wars, territory battles, the raids, as well as sometimes you can use them in arena if you need to chew through a particular team, such as the nightsisters that are giving you guff. And so Aggressive Tactician is definitely recommended. But right now in Phase 3, since your Chex Mix team isn't ready, I would do your Imperial Troopers. Make sure that you try and shoot for getting 2 topples in Phase 3, so that way you can get over 1 million damage with this team. But if you want a couple, 1.5 to 2 to 2.5 million, you really need the Chex team. All right, the last 2 for your Chex Mix team, and the reason why Chex Mix is not ready to go yet for you is Chirrut Imwe and Pow. You have them both at Gear 5 and 6 and 5 stars. So you've got to get your turret up to 7 stars, and you got to gear him up, and you got to get your POW up to 7 stars and gear him up. Now, with POW, you get him 7 stars, gear 8, that's good enough. All you're looking for is the offense up, and then just get his offense numbers over 2,000 as best as possible. And then for turret anyway, just take him up. Go, go, go. He's a really great light side character. You're going to have to use him anyway in territory battles. He's just like one of the best characters for territory battles, specifically the Rogue One node that they have a couple of. So turret, definitely get up. I would also focus on slow farming bays off of his hard node, because bays and turret really go hand in hand. But turret for this phase 3 team, you got to get him up. He's there for the tenacity up, the health regeneration, and he's an attacker, so you can really stack him with just a bunch of offense, which is going to really translate well into this Chex team and the amount of damage that you're going to be able to do. Now, you did ask about priorities, specifically Zetas, like kind of how do I prioritize Zetas? And the first thing I say is what makes you money in game is what you should be focused Zetas on. So arena team is the first and foremost priority because it's what helps you keep the #1 slot and get all of those crystals. The second would become crew members for all of your ships because they're the ones that help this team go up to the #1 spot each and every day. And these crystals are nearly as much as the crystals in main arena, but main arena is more important for the general audience listening because they may not be getting into the top 20 for fleet, but for you, you are. And so definitely main arena, then fleet arena. If you have the ability to Zeta anybody who happens to be in your main arena or a crew member, it does make the team stronger and more powerful. And remember, all of these characters will continue to be used throughout the rest of the next year or two. Same with these crew members. They're going to continue to have continued viability in the future meta of ships. And then lastly, for Zetas, I would recommend any character that I suggested that's in your raid teams. So any raid teams for Sith that you want to Zeta, characters such as Death Trooper would help his ship, and you use Death Trooper in the Imperial Troopers team, and or you use him in the Phase 3 Chex team. Characters like that. BB-8 has Zeta, which is really great. Obviously, you've got your Han Solo, but you want to get him from gear 10 to gear 12. But other Zetas are just basically any characters that you're using in those Sith teams, such as, Holdo's Zeta or JTR's Zetas or CLS's, the rest of his Zetas. Night Sisters, when you actually start focusing on Night Sisters, that's going to be a big deal. And we almost forgot Phase 4 of the Sith Raid. I can't even believe I almost zipped past my notes and almost forgot. But after Chex Mix, taking a step back, Phase 4, you're going to use, it's kind of the kitchen sink mentality. You're going to throw your Phoenix team there. You're going to throw your First Order team against them. But the first team you should use to go against Darth Nihilus is really your Night Sisters. And with Night Sisters, you have a team that you can focus on and go with. So go with that. However, the farming priority for the Zombie and Mother Talzin should definitely be up there at a minimum for those two, because those are two really, really good Night Sisters for territory wars, battles, and the Sith Raid to really give you durability in the Sith Raid, specifically Zombie and Mother Talzin. Those two in the team, the Night Sisters team, is absolutely amazing. So of all of the teams other than Chirrut and POW for your Chex Mix team, I really recommend you hyper focus on your Night Sisters, Mother Talzin and Zombie. And I hear people tell me that, Zombie, really high gear, works great in Phase 4, but I also hear people say, no, keep her squishy. If I were you, I would go watch. There's about 4 videos I've seen now on YouTube on Phase 4 Night Sisters teams and see what kind of damage they're putting up with a squishy versus a really tanky, and see which one is providing greater numbers. And we talked again about the priorities in Zetas. The last priority you wanted to know about was crystals. Kind of, you're a dolphin. You don't get a lot of crystals all the time. You just purchase a few here and there. And how should you best use them? And right now, I look at your development as, you're either beginning game, mid game, or end game. End game is where you basically have everything you need 7-star, and you're really mostly getting close to being done with the gear. You're kind of that mid to end game where you still working on some character stars, you're still working on some characters' gear, and because of your starring characters and gearing characters still, I would highly recommend 80%, 4 out of 5 of your crystals go still to farming stars and gear for your characters, so that way you can continue to progress in the game with those, with all of those farming abilities. The other 20%, you could occasionally buy something out of the store on an off shot. If you have somebody you just can't get from gear 9 to gear 10 that you're trying, and you're stuck on a particular piece of gear that's not farmable, you could purchase it from a store and boost it up pretty quickly. But remember, the shard shop gives you a ton of that kind of gear, as does a lot of other places in the game, such as the guild event store and whatnot. So try to use your crystals when possible for farming stars and gear for these characters to get them leveled up. It's really kind of where you're still at. Once you get most of your characters to gear, 10 or above and things like that, you can start to kind of transfer, and all your crystals can start to go buying that highest in gear for the most important characters at that point. But for now, really 80% should be going to farm for the stars and the gear. So Darth Rayden, you're doing amazing. I enjoy battling you out every day in Arena. It is fun. You got a great team. In fact, yesterday this team smoked my team. Of course, the very next battle I smoked you, but that's just how RNG goes in the arena. But it's good times. You got a great team. If anyone has any thoughts or comments, especially about Nightsisters and how much damage he can do with which teams, leave them in the comments down below, and keep your gaming on. Warrior out.